Hey, welcome back to the Full Weight of Joy podcast. I am so excited to share a special guest with you today. Her name is Laurie Hammer, and I have met her a couple of months ago. And actually, we recorded this podcast a bit ago, and I can't wait to share it with you today. Here, I talk a lot about the brain, and we talk about how powerful our thoughts are. And I also talked about how there's so many things that's happening that's not your fault. And she brings another layer to this. Our conversation is about how the nutrients in our brain affect our thoughts and affect our growth and affect our lives. And if we want to truly step into who God's created us to be, if we want to live our full purpose, then this means taking care of ourselves as well. So that's why I asked her to be on the podcast, and I can't wait to share this. Let's do this. Laurie, I am so excited. I think it's been almost 3 months since we've kind of found each other and we're trying to make this happen. And so I would love for you just to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I'm a functional nutritional therapist. I'm also a homeschooling mom, and I'm married to my husband for 20 years. And so my life is full, and I love it that way. So I work with mainly women who have anxiety, depression, hormone disruption, adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue issues, who want to change their life, who want to overcome that. And I use amino acid therapy to rebuild the brain, and then we work on everything below the neck after that.
Yes. And so that's kind of how we got introduced, because we both kind of focus on the brain, but in different aspects. And so tell us a little bit about the amino acids. How did you connect that the amino acids could really affect our emotions and our daily lives?
Yeah, so amino acid therapy actually saved my life, to be honest with you. So back in my early 20s, I had struggled with an eating disorder and anxiety and depression for 12 years, a little less than that. And a friend introduced me to this clinic out in Mill Valley, California called Recovery Systems, run by Julia Ross. And I went there as an outpatient to help with my eating disorder, my addiction to food. I was bulimic. And because I had tried to get into different eating disorder programs and I wasn't suicidal enough, my weight wasn't low enough, but yet I was still ending up in the ER with seizures and passing out and all those kind of things all the time. So she's like, let's try this. She was actually my psychiatric nursing professor. And so I called out there and I went out there and I found out that my brain was just severely depleted. And so they used amino acid therapy with me way back then. And I discovered that, oh my gosh, my anxiety and my depression lifted quickly. And then I got out of that cycle of my eating disorder. So I wasn't binging and purging all the time. I found out I had celiac disease, yeast overgrowth, adrenal issues. So that was my first introduction to basically functional nutrition, only they didn't call it way back then, functional nutrition. And it literally saved my life. So I have been passionate about that for years, and I kind of dabbled with it with friends and family for a really long time. And then I got my own certification after I got my degree. And so I've done a lot of other things since then with amino acid therapy, but I still get amazed after, this was in 1996 when I went into that outpatient treatment program, and I have not looked back. It still works today, just like it did back then.
It's so fascinating. So the more I'm looking into it and reading about it, I'm like, the brain is really the center of everything, and our thoughts. And I'm a firm believer that our thoughts control our life. But to know that actually our brain, I didn't even think about the fact that we are depleting our brain from the nutrients and things. Because honestly, I don't know. Without intention, there are a lot of moms out there who have amazing nutrition, but even with amazing nutrition, are we able to get those amino acids that we need? And how do we? So where do we start with that? What does it do for us, and how do we know if we are if that's something we need to explore?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot there. So let's unpack that. So why would you need to use amino acids? Can't you just eat protein? Because amino acids make up protein, right? Well, when your brain is depleted, you need therapeutic doses of specific amino acids that target specific neurotransmitters in the brain. So for example, say serotonin. So you have anxiety, depression, OCD, you have cravings in the middle of the afternoon into the evening, you have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep. That can all be serotonin issues, or you have a hyperactive brain. So those are some examples. And so I use a specific questionnaire of all these symptoms. And then depending on how you rate it is where we start with everything. But if you have a serotonin deficiency, we're going to use a therapeutic dose of tryptophan or 5-HTP, depending on what you're responding to, so that we can rebuild that neurotransmitter, right? So a medication just masks things, right? It says, go to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm just falsely
Yeah.
inflate this in between, the postsynaptic, in that synaptic cleft, and it doesn't actually fix anything. The goal of amino acid therapy is to rebuild the brain so that you make your own serotonin, because when we give our bodies what it needs, when we give our brain what it needs, it will do what it's designed to do, right? And
Yeah.
so then all of a sudden, after a bit of time, you don't need the supplement anymore. So the goal is that you're not on the amino acids forever. The goal is that you rebuild your brain, and then your body knows what to do after that. It's amazing. It really is amazing.
It's just another step too. Because I was thinking, because there's so much. I mean, you can control your thoughts. Like, we're a creator of our thoughts, but and then still, it's like, well, how do they're still negative. They're still like struggling with changing perspectives and things. And it's like, well, really, it's again just elevating that. Again, it's not your fault, but now
Yeah.
it's your responsibility. Like, now you can make those changes. And I can imagine, like, once you start making those amino acid changes, giving your brain what you need, those
Mhm.
thoughts naturally will start to shift. Like,
Yeah, and it
it
makes
starts,
your job easier, Tammy.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Man.
so many women come, they're like, I would love to meditate, but I can't. Like, my brain just can't stop. I can't figure out how to do it. And, I'm saying all these positive things. I'm working with, a person who's teaching me how to do these things, and it's helping, this much, but we want it to help this much, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so if we can actually calm that brain down, if we can give it the nutrition that it actually needs, then you can, like you were just saying, you can have a more positive thought. You can respond appropriately to stressful situations, because we're always going to have stress, right? There's things that go on in our world. We can't avoid that, but it's how we respond to it. And being able to use the tools that, like you're teaching, so that we can actually recall what those tools are and use them in that appropriate moment. And so that you don't feel like you're losing your flipping mind. And, as we're transitioning into perimenopause, into menopause, if so many women are like, I just feel like I've lost my mind. I look at my husband, he is not cute anymore, but I really do like him, right? But he just has, I just look at him, and then I don't know what to do with that. I've lost my keys. I don't want my kids to touch me. I like to stay home. I would rather be by myself. I'm more reclusive. I don't want to work out anymore. All these things that I hear from these women, and it's actually getting younger and younger all the time. And so when we rebuild the brain, amazing things happen. Your husband is actually cute again. You want to go on a date with him because it's not overwhelming, because you're like, I know what's on the end of that date. And I just don't think I have the energy for that. Right. I mean, we're going thoughts, right?
Yeah, no, that's such a good point, because a lot of my listeners are, my people, like, we're either right into that perimenopause or into perimenopause and like going through that, and all of these things like happen. Then all of a sudden, even with our kids, it's like that nurturing. Like, I have a short attention span with them,
Right.
and and so and I'm like, that's not what I want, especially in these last years. I feel like are so important. I want to send them off with a bang, not an explosion.
Yeah.
And so, is that something that amino acids like can help with as well? Just that in
Yeah.
general, like our
Yeah.
oh
Any
man,
nutrition, you feed your brain. And people are like, well, go back to, why can't I just eat more protein, which is really important. So I teach all of my clients to eat more animal protein, because that's where we're going to get the complete amino acids from. But if you're not digesting it, your body is still inflamed because you've had this jacked up brain forever. That affects your gut, right? And then your gut affects your brain, and then you're on this constant hamster wheel. And so if we calm the brain down, then we can calm the gut down, and then we can fix the other deficiencies so that you can actually digest the protein that you're ingesting. And then we can go to any upstream issues that might be the root cause as to why it's happened in the first place. And there's always emotional issues, there's chemical, there's physical. So we want to make sure we address all three of those. There's always a root cause, and we'll go upstream there. But just calming the brain down is life changing. It's actually saved marriages. I've had husbands call me when their wife is in the appointment saying thank you because she felt like she was losing her mind. We never were intimate anymore. She was always angry with me. Like I couldn't even breathe her air and there was something wrong and we couldn't figure it out, right? Tried bioidentical hormones, tried this, tried that. And we really just had to rebuild the brain, right? I had one client, her husband wouldn't let her drive past noon because she was so fatigued and she would just be like
Wow.
irritable and just so lethargic. And then she worked with me for like 3 months and then she was able to drive 6 hours by herself. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah,
So what other what other signs can you when you start this, because there's a lot of things out there that like you try and you just hope that it works.
right.
So if we were to start, what are some of the benefits that happen pretty quickly with taking these amino acids or really focusing on getting the nutrients to our brain?
Yeah, absolutely. So amino acids work within 24 to 48 hours. You'll notice a difference. And so it's really that fast. In fact, when I have an initial appointment with a client, I send them if they're, not here to come to my office, I'll send them a kit of amino acids and we literally try them with each other on Zoom. So we open up the capsule, put it under your tongue, and then we stare at each other weird for, 2 minutes and then say, does this feel different? Can you notice a difference? And they'll say yeah, or they'll say no, and then we'll try something different, or we'll increase the dose, whatever it might be. But I want them to leave that appointment with hope, knowing that this supplement, this amino acid therapy actually works for me, right? And
Wow.
so there's four specific neurotransmitter areas that we focus on, and then glucose balancing as well. And so we talked about serotonin. There's also GABA. So GABA is like, let's just take a deep breath and let it out, right? And that's how you respond appropriately to stress when your GABA is balanced, right? So serotonin is your sunshine that gives you that you're just happy when you have enough serotonin. There's endorphins. And so we focus on endorphins. That's our inner joy. That's where we feel yummy and comfy in our own skin and we feel okay
Ah,
with people around us. Then there's called catecholamines, which is a really big word, but basically it's your dopamine. And so that helps us with focus. That gives us that motivation so we don't go every single day because we don't care about the day. We're just kind of like trudging through. And so once we get our catecholamines on board, we have the focus. We're not rabbit trailing everywhere. We're not looking for wine. We're not looking for caffeine. We're not looking for coffee to give us those types of boosts. And then we're going to balance that out with the glucose because if our glucose is unstable, then our brain is unstable. So we have to concentrate on those five things to begin with in order for us to be able to take the next step. Because if we don't do those five things, concentrate in those five areas, it's really hard to work anything, below the neck.
yeah. No, my mind immediately is like, I just was like, well, wouldn't that be nice that you could have all of those things? Like one of those would be nice, but then all of
Right.
like, is that yeah, that would be like too good to be true. Like that would be life changing. It blows my mind that that is all like the brain health that all of that because yeah, like it's so crazy because over time, it's like, oh, it's mom brain or pregnancy brain, then mom brain, and
Yeah,
then
we can give it any name we want, right, Tammy?
right. Yes, and it just adds on because there's like grief brain because all of this
Yes.
all these things that happen to you, like your brain is like, well, the one job is for survival. And
Hmm.
so it will basically it can turn off different areas, just kind of dim them. So that way it basically functions on survival instincts only. And if
Yeah.
you don't, I keep thinking of those old school lawnmowers where you got to get them, you got to get them ignited, and which is
Right.
why art therapy is so good. But I didn't even think about the fact that it's like okay, because you hear all these supplements and you hear all these vitamins and I know that they're good, but you never know which ones work and which
Oh,
ones are
yeah.
heal. But it's just amazing, that all of this, all of it's capable at one time. Like I don't even
I
remember a
know.
time
We want the
all of
whole
these work.
package. We want the whole brain balance. We just don't want one area because,
Right.
dopamine is like the big talk right now, right? And so if we're just focusing on dopamine, well, what about GABA? What about serotonin? What about your endorphins? What about, the rest of your brain? So if we're only focusing on one area, it's kind of like going to a specialist who's going to work on your hand, but the real issue is, it's in your brain and it's not in your hand. You know what I mean? And so we're not we're not dealing with the root cause issues of all of that or balancing things out. And so that's the goal with amino acid therapy, is that we just want the brain to feel grounded and just like
Yeah.
stable. I mean, women just want to feel stable. We have so many hormone challenges and all those other kind of things we're always trying to navigate. We just want to be stable, and that's the goal.
Yeah. Stable, and like there's so much like a lot of my clients, they want peace and they want to feel the joy,
Boy,
which is,
yeah,
and and like that's one reason why I need the full weight of joy. And because it's like you either feel the full weight of the world or the full weight
right,
of joy. Like you can
exactly.
like those are, I kind of feel, are opposites, but it's like you can search for joy and you can try all the things, but if your brain is not healthy,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're starting, it's an uphill battle that you're just gonna trudge up and you're never gonna achieve like fully. Like you can
Mhm.
absolutely find joy, and but just the idea of a healthy brain and the joy that comes from that,
Right? Yeah.
it blows my mind. Do you have any other like, do you have a story that you could share with us of someone who, what they were before and then kind of like how this therapy transformed their life, kind of what they're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we could talk. Do you want to talk about a mom or you want to talk about a kid? I mean, I have lots of stories.
Okay, well, let's talk about a mom. Let's talk
Okay.
about, because typically, I mean, as women, as moms, we're so good at helping other people, but if like investing in ourselves and doing something like this and like getting coaching, getting
Yeah.
these, amino acids, like yes, it is, there's an investment to it, but also like it translates, the ripple effects, it affects your kids.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so
So
yeah,
I have
share
a
with me.
psychotherapist that I work with, and she's amazing. But she was still having her own issues with anxiety, some depression, some heart palpitations, those kind of things. This is somebody I recently worked with. And she came to me and she's like, I think I'm losing my mind. Like I've been to the ER, I don't know how many times because I think I'm having a heart attack. This is what her diet was. She wasn't eating, super clean. And so she's like, I just can't get rid of this anxiety and I don't want to feel this way anymore. Okay. And so she does, EMDR, she's a psychotherapist, so she does all of those things. And so she's got a lot of those tools. And so she was sitting here in my office and I gave her two different supplements. She's like, my heart isn't racing anymore. I don't feel this tightness in my chest anymore. Right.
Oh,
And so she worked with me for 90 days and we've rebalanced her brain. She just uses the amino acids as she needs them now. We're about 6 months out from when she started. Changed the diet a little bit. Her diet isn't perfect. And
sure.
so, we could do these things even if your diet isn't perfect, which is amazing.
Yes.
And, she's feeling more hormonally balanced. And so we got to some root cause issues and, just adjusted that. So I would say that's, the typical person that comes to me is just like, have these things I can't get rid of. I've done this, I've done that, I've done yoga, I've done meditation, I see a counselor. We can't talk away a nutrient deficiency. You can't medicate away a nutrient deficiency, right? You actually have to fix the nutrient deficiency. And so that's what we're doing.
That's, oh man, it's so good. And it's crazy because these are your typical results. These are not even like
Yeah.
the outstanding, like outliers that are amazing. Like that's the typical.
Yeah.
Uh,
And with
so
so many people are like, is this true? Is this a placebo effect? Because it feels like it shouldn't be like, okay, how are you feeling now? Well, my
like
brain
two
feels
minutes.
lighter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a kid last night and he's looking at me, he goes, should my brain feel lighter? I said, yeah, it should. He goes, should things look bluer? Yeah, things should look bluer, just like these
Wow.
little things. This is a 14-year-old kid. And so, they're not psychosomatic. They're like, I don't trust this lady on the other end of this Zoom call. And so,
Yes.
really? And so then he was all in about other things like, what is this one gonna, help me feel like? And
I see more red. Yeah.
do I see more red? Do I see, just that calm feeling? All of a sudden,
Ah,
I have women that'll come up like this, kind of on the edge of their seat and, they're fidgeting, they're doing all these things. And all of a sudden I give them a GABA, something to support their GABA pathway. And all of a sudden they're just sitting back and, just talking a
yeah.
little slower and,
Hey,
you can just see it. It's really fun to actually
uh,
have a husband or somebody with them. You're like, you should see her foot stop shaking or, just,
um,
little things like that. It can
yeah.
feel small, but it's so big in the long run.
That's, and it's so cool. I love it. And I know that you started this journey because of your needs. Because you, so why do you continue? Because part of the reason, part of the part of my mission on this podcast is to really encourage women to step out into their calling. Like
Yep.
the things we go through are none of it's wasted. And I know that you are a woman of faith as well. That's one thing, another thing that connected us because we believe that God's called us to this
Yep.
amazing life. And so could you tell me a little bit of like why is it so important for you to push past, what kind of blocks have you pushed past in order to make these transformations for others?
Yeah.
To shine light.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy because we homeschool. I've raised my kids. We live in a small town, and so I don't have to do this, right? I could just stay home and not do anything. But I can't. I can't stay silent about this because you see so many women hurting, and
Mm.
we as moms are the heart of the home, right? And so if our heart is hurting, if makes me cry. If we're hurting, then everyone else around us, including our pets, are hurting, right? Because nobody can have a bad day. If, everybody has a bad day when mom's having a bad day. And so if I can make an impact on moms, then that's a ripple effect out to the family. And then if the family is better, then the society is better. And then I feel like it's a world changing opportunity for us to do what we've been called to do. And the Lord has just opened up some really great, amazing doors for me. And I work out of my home. I've got great connections. I'm always meeting amazing people like yourself. And I just want women to feel good. I want them to know that God doesn't want them to be sick. He doesn't want them to be anxious. He doesn't want them to be depressed. That's never his goal. And so, yes, we pray. Yes, we believe in healing. I've been radically healed, miraculously healed myself from cancer diagnosis. And
Wow.
we also have to take our health seriously. And we're so good at putting everybody else first that
Mhm.
we're like, well, I don't want to spend money on this. I don't want to, I'll work on myself after my kids are gone. Well, you know what? When I see those women who have waited that long, it's a lot harder to get healthy at that point in time. And that's
Yeah.
when they come to me, they're on 3 medications instead of one, and they've just had breast cancer, or they just have really some traumatic autoimmune condition that has really rocked their world. And so all you younger mamas out there, you know, take care of yourself now, right? It's not selfish to
Mhm.
take care of yourself. Actually, if you want to run after your grandkids, if you want to be that mom that hikes with your kids when you're 85 years old, like I just saw when I went on vacation with my friend, she was celebrating her 85th birthday and she was hiking. I'm like, this is a hard hike, you know? And she just shimmied right up there. And both my friend and I are looking at like, we want to be like that when we're 85. And you have to
Pretty
take
sweet.
care of yourself in order to do that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we get this one life, we only get one body, so we better take good care of it. And like I said, I just want moms to know that there is joy out there when you don't feel like there is. So that's the goal of balancing the brain, is so that you know the joy that God has available for you. You can tangibly feel it, and it penetrates all the way down to your DNA.
So good. What are some of the struggles or some of the limiting beliefs that you fought past
Mm,
to get where you are today?
yeah. As a homeschool mom, like, well, I'm just a homeschool mom, right? I'm just a homeschool mom. So what impact can I make? Do I really have the funds to do this? And not throwing my husband under the bus. He's like, do you really think people are going to come to you in this small town? I don't really think it's going to work. Well, that's kind of motivating me to me too. But, it's just kind of busting past what people would say and getting criticism. I've been the weird mom in town. Let's just be really honest. I love Jesus. I eat weird, we homeschool. And yeah, I've been called weird numerous times, and that's okay. I don't mind that. I'd rather be weird than, going in along with the mainstream. But
Yeah.
just knowing that God He will provide all the resources for you if He gives you the vision for it. And so I would say our biggest limiting belief is just letting our fear run our lives, right? And so I've definitely had to overcome a lot of that. But in just stepping out, whether it was for financial or time, I know I don't have time, right? I don't have time to do this. God's like, I think you do. And if sure enough, he makes a way for all of that. And so it's just, writing down what the Lord gives you and then saying, I'm not going to let anything stop this. I go back to Joshua all the time, where the Lord says, I've given you all of this land, right?
Mm.
You have to go and take it. But know that every place you put your foot, I've given you victory, right? And so reminding myself of that, it's not Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. I still have to go fight the battle. I still have to take the territory, but he's already gone before me. And so I know there's a victory ahead if I just keep walking that pathway, right?
Yeah. And it's true. And it's one of those moments too. It's like, as much as I do truly believe you are, a special individual, child of God, you're also the same. Like this is here for every one of his
Yeah.
kids, like every one of the women who love him. And yeah. And so just, encouraging women to push past the limiting beliefs and to know that, like, I love that, like, knowing that every step down, God's already given you victory for that one spot. So
Hmm.
just take that spot boldly and then go after the next one. And
Yeah.
with that, can you share? I don't know if you have, I mean, this is going to play probably end of 2024 or the very beginning of
Okay.
2025. And wait, is can you share with some of the vision that God's given you for your, like, what's coming? Like, what's the next boulder that you're going to tackle?
Yeah. So I'm going to start an academy. It's called the Calm Mom Academy, where I'm going to take everything that I do individually with people and I'm putting it in the academy. So we're building it right now. And so that I can reach more people. And I really want to create a community of moms who are kind of going through the same things and they're doing the same therapy at the same time. And so everybody can be like, hey, how do you feel? How do you feel? What's going on here? And I just want it to be an amazing resource for moms to heal. And, how can we even like clean up our homes? And, so there'll be lots of different nuances with it. But the main thing is the amino acid therapy so that we can balance the brain, so that mamas can feel joy, so they can feel grounded, so they can feel whole physically. And then, we'll
Well, and
see.
yeah, well, and the byproduct of that is when you feel whole and you feel grounded and you feel joy, you want to do more. Like the
Yeah,
God dream that He's given you, like it's like gives you that energy, that boost, and you find the time because it doesn't take so long to get ready or it doesn't take so
right.
long to talk yourself into, doing something during the day. So
Yep.
that's so cool. And I know you'll give me the link so that when
Yes,
that's
I have the
ready.
link so that you can either be on the wait list or depending when this comes out or when you can
Okay,
register for it. So yes, it's
awesome.
coming
Well,
out. I'm
hopefully,
so excited. It's going to reach,
yeah.
thousands. My goal is millions of moms out there.
That it's so crazy. I love it. I'm gonna join for sure. I know, and like just a glimpse. Like we're still in the very early stages, but I wanted to share a little bit about because you and I we do
Mhm.
similar things. We have a similar
Yeah.
goal, but we go about, well, we work with the brain, but we are talking. And so for my listeners, I'm giving them a little glimpse of something that I know that it will be around at some point next year, but we're looking at like doing a collaboration where we work together with the amino acid therapy as well as the neuro coaching and the rewiring the limiting beliefs and to see like how fast can we get relief for these amazing women who have such calling and purpose on their lives, whether it's to raise some amazing human beings, or if it's they're taking the castle and creating a nonprofit or what or
Right.
anything in between. Like I'm just so excited, and as we start to peel back and look at what that is, because both aspects are so important. Our
So
brains stop us so much from living. And we
mhm.
don't have to stay there. So yeah, I'm so excited about that and your Calm Mom Academy and all of that. And how can how can we follow you? Well, you have a podcast, so tell everyone about that
Yeah.
so they can
So
listen and
yeah, I
then
have a podcast, Take Back My Brain. Tammy has been interviewed on there. Her interview will be coming out shortly. And yay. So I just deal with lots of different health topics, maybe topics that are going on in the world so that we can, nourish our brain in the political system. We can nourish our brain spiritually. We can nourish our brain physically. So there's lots of different nuances within Take Back My Brain. And then you can follow me at lauriehammer.com and all my social medias are listed on my website. There is an option to schedule a free consult with me just to share what's going on with you. And then, I can give you my kind of assessment as to, where do you fit in everything that I have to
ah,
offer.
that's so cool. I'm excited about all of this because I know that just there's so many times that we're like, well, it's not your fault, not your fault. And then this, it's like, no, really, it's not your fault. But now you get to make a change. And I know for me, it's very empowering because like fighting the limiting beliefs, fighting the exhaustion, and it's like, Oh, there is a real reason for it. It's not just I'm making it up in my mind. So I just want to say thank you for sharing your story and sharing this because I do this mission to get it out to all of the women. Like it would be so helpful. And it sounds like I don't know if you can hear someone in my house is printing. That's the joys
There
of
you go.
homeschool. All of
That
a
is the
sudden,
beauty of
our,
homeschooling. Yep.
yeah, like, oh, a paper must be done. And they're but hey, I just want to say thank you for coming, and I can't wait to see where this collaboration goes. And I just can't wait for you to pour into my women too, that my audience, because I know that they have some of the same thoughts that I do. They're like, well, we're trying.
Right.
And now, like now we have a tool that immediately, like I can't wait. The 2 minutes, like that part right there just blows my mind. I can't wait to try all the amino acids and see how I feel with the changes. And so, but thank you so much for coming on. And is there anything else you'd like to share, or leave a like inspiration or an action item for like what is one thing that my listeners can do today to help their brain health?
Yeah. Help your brain health. Eat more protein. So it's super
Okay.
simple. Just like take your protein and double it for the day. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's I'm hearing that a lot. So
Yes.
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you
here.
for having me,
Thank you
Tammy.
for yes, and I'm sure you'll be on again. As we like get more of this and understand, because it just this tool that we can do like help women is I can't wait. It's just gonna change. It's gonna change things so well and ripple effects. We won't even be able to see the side of heaven how it's changed when women take back their brains